All right. Well, you can smell football in the air as we inch closer to kickoff of the 2024 college football season. The Mountaineers will host the Penn State Nittany Lions for the first time in over 3 decades. This is the Mountaineer Report here on WV Sports Now. I'm Mike Asti. That is Ethan Bock. And we have another game of sorts. We've been playing over-under games. We've been playing prediction games in our recent shows after kind of getting into analysis throughout fall camp. But now it's about football and about the games to be played, and we are about to get the answers to all of our offseason questions. So we are going to kind of do a preview show of sorts, and I played this on a radio appearance. I think it works here for a podcast. Again, hit the subscribe button, comment below with any of your answers to this game we're about to play, and also find us everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Google Play, etc. We are available in visual and audio form now throughout the WV Sports Now network. We are going to go through West Virginia's full schedule out of conference to Big 12, and we are going to classify these games as either a game West Virginia should be the favorite in, they will be an underdog in, or it'll be quote-unquote a swing game. Obviously, that's left up for interpretation and will be our opinion. Those are obviously games that could go either way. We have only the one Vegas spread in front of us of Penn State, so a lot of this is just projecting what it'll be, but we're going to try to figure whether they will be favorite or underdog based on what is in front of the Mountaineers. So, Ethan, first off, where are you on a scale of being ready for this damn thing to kick off? Give me a 1 to 10, because we've been talking about this a long time. I feel like this is the most anticipated, longest freaking offseason around, even though there's excitement, and it was a good offseason for the program, but man, it feels like it's been 3 years since Mountaineer football.
I'll give you 20.
Okay, there you go.
Just means sports are back in a way where we're at the point in the summer where baseball is just the only sport around. Now get college football back, then you'll have NFL, and then college basketball and NBA will come back. So yeah, I'm at a 20.
Yeah, I'm probably right there with you, and I believe that until middle of February, we're going to have football of some kind all the way through every weekend now, and then you'll even get spring football, but legit college football and the NFL all the way through the fall and the winter. And yeah, basketball season 2, a lot of intrigue there. We'll be touching on the Mountaineers under Darren DeVries, of course, on future episodes of this show, but even the NBA. A lot to look forward to. The fall is the best sports section of the calendar for sure. So we kick it off like the Mountaineers do. West Virginia welcomes Penn State to Morgantown. Sounds weird to even say. Ethan wasn't even alive the last time this game was played. I'm older, obviously, although I was very young as well. Right now, West Virginia is an 8.5-point underdog. This was as much as Penn State being favored by 12.5. It has slowly ticked down closer to West Virginia, which I don't know about you, I'm kind of surprised by, because that can't just be West Virginia fans betting, and they may have before. Maybe they jumped aboard the 12.5. I'm kind of surprised by that, with the national media circling this as pretty much a win for Penn State, even though saying, don't overlook the Mountaineers, but it's moving closer. I don't know. Are you surprised at all?
I am surprised as well. I'm intrigued to see how far it just keeps going down.
Yeah, it's day by day. Right.
Yeah. Does it creep into 6? Maybe.
Oh, within a touchdown. That would really be a statement.
I don't
think it was last year. Yeah.
I don't think it should have been under 10. I think 10 was a nice buffer of Penn State could win by multiple scores if West Virginia kept it close still through 3 quarters. So, yeah, I'm really surprised it's all the way down to 8 now.
And what I think causes me to be really surprised, it's almost like Vegas and bettors didn't learn their lesson from last year, Ethan. And what I mean by that is we're going off a spread. You can think West Virginia is going to hang in this game, be more competitive, show they're a better team, even if you believe they're going to lose. And Penn State deserves to be favored going into this game, even though it's in Morgantown. But last year, West Virginia almost covered that spread. They were going to cover it, even though it was obviously a much bigger spread and they weren't really in the game. And then Penn State scored in the last 6 seconds. That was controversial. Brown was upset. But James Franklin does that all the time. So, Ethan, what I'm saying is, if you believe Penn State's going to be up by a score with a minute left and West Virginia's going to have a chance, and maybe they fail at the end, or maybe time runs out on them, or maybe Penn State gets the ball with a few seconds left, and West Virginia did this in the final 2 minutes, and then Penn State holds. Penn State might not take a knee, Ethan. They may try to drill it down your throat, make a statement, and score again, like last year, and then that takes the spread away. Like if they're up by a score and they don't take a knee and they say, no, we're going to score again, West Virginia calls the dogs off or something, their backup team is in, then they get a 14-point win off the score, even though it was really a much closer game. So it almost feels like we're not remembering what happened last year. It would occur. He would do it again if that situation exists, because they need quality wins and they probably want West Virginia to be ranked, and that would only be their third-ranked team right now on their schedule. I'd imagine we both got this as West Virginia's the underdog in this game. Even if you believe in the Mountaineers, they got to be the underdog.
Yeah. And back to the last year of Penn State running up the score, I think I don't think it'll just be a Penn State thing this year. I could see a lot of teams doing it more and more now with, now you're almost turning college football into college basketball with a bunch of at-large bids.
Yeah.
So for Penn State, winning 35-21 in Morgantown looks a lot more sexier than 28-21.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I could see Brown doing it too.
Yeah,
I could see if West Virginia wins this game. He said last year this always will come back around. I absolutely could see Brown if he has that ball at the end and they are already up and they have a win secured. Now, knowing him, he's classy and he might just take the W. I'm sure that's all he'll care about getting. He won't want to risk it. But I could see a thought pop in his head of, I'm going to do this.
I could see any team. I could see any team doing it in a conference where you could have multiple bids. So the Power Four, any of those schools, I can see trying to run up the score. Now analytics are definitely going to be more involved. You can even make the argument you could have bracketology for the 12-team playoff.
You want that. You've been bringing that up for a while. Yeah, 100%. Someone got to.
It's going to happen. I'm putting it. Maybe I'll do it. Screw it.
I was going to say we can start doing it here. We have WVU Sports now. Yeah.
Somebody's got to be Joe Lenardi and put it out every Tuesday or something. It's going to get a lot more analytical, especially once even the group of fives could be really, really weird about it, just depending on how good the group of five schools are. And the at-large bids can get crazy too. So there's a lot more analytics that can go into it, and the computers are going to favor the win differential.
Yeah, and Notre Dame right now is preseason top 10. If they have a few ranked teams on their schedule, even though they have a tough one right away, if they end up winning right away, or even if they don't, they're going to have ranked teams later on. They play Florida State. They're going to play Louisville. If they win those games, Ethan, regardless of the rest of that schedule, they're going to crawl in. So that's a spot right there. And most of the spots at large are going to be Big Ten and SEC probably outside of the conference champs and maybe a group of five. But that's even more reason why Penn State, most people think they're not going to win the Big Ten. It's just too hard to do so. They didn't do it before. They need style points. So as you're saying, if they beat the Mountaineers by 6 points or a last-second touchdown or a field goal, the committee's going to sit there and say, you were favored by 8.5. Yeah, you were on the road, but you barely won. That's a Big 12 team. You're supposed to be in a better conference and be a better program. That doesn't look style point fancy. That's almost where Ken Palm that you're bringing up. And with college basketball, that got West Virginia in the tournament a couple years ago, despite losing a lot of games. Ken Palm if West Virginia loses by a field goal, what Ken Palm would say the Mountaineers won. They would say it's a loss on the record, but they well exceed expectations, and they would consider Penn State having kind of taken an L there and moved them back. That's how Ken Palm works. People would be upset, but that's Ken Palm. So maybe we got to get this started.
It'd be a quality loss. It'd be a quality loss to a top 10 team.
It would be a quality loss, and that would be brought up all year long. Moving along, though, Albany, they are a strong FCS. They are coming off an 11-win season. I've been preaching, don't sleep on Albany. West Virginia got to be favored in that going into that game, though, right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. And they got to have a chance to also play Day Farmer and get a lot more of the freshmen, etc. That's where they got to shake that rust off and get them fully ready to maybe unleash them in the backyard brawl. If you can't do it against Penn State because it's harder against a program like PSU. This is interesting now. Remember, we are playing. Will West Virginia be the favorite, the underdog, or will it be a swing game here on Mountaineer Report? This is the backyard brawl. This will decide the current series now, with Pitt winning a couple years ago, West Virginia winning last year despite the injury to Green. This game back in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium, home of the Steelers. They set an attendance record there a couple years ago. In terms of sports events, only Taylor Swift has beaten that. West Virginia should have a better team. They are closer to being ranked this year. They have a similar roster coming back. They're more of a veteran team. They're more established now. This is kind of a flip of what it was a couple years ago, where Pitt was bringing a core back of a recent hot streak of winning the ACC and then a bowl appearance, etc. West Virginia's kind of doing that now, and Pitt fell off last year. Pitt had a really bad year. They're still deciding who the hell their QB is going to be, and no one really knows. But it is in Pittsburgh. We all know, Ethan, the backyard brawl can go either way no matter what these teams are supposed to do. And unlike West Virginia with likely a loss against Penn State, Pitt's going to probably go in undefeated because their schedule prior to that game is really Cupcake City, Kent State, and they don't play anybody tough until afterwards. I think West Virginia will be a small favorite, and I probably could view that in a way as a swing game. I'm going to go Mountaineers favorite, though, and not say it's swing, just because I don't think that much of Pitt this year despite an easy schedule, but I could see that going either way, maybe even as an underdog with Pitt at home. Where are you?
West Virginia should be a favorite. Okay. I would even go – I wouldn't go more than a touchdown because obviously it's a rivalry game. I could see a 5-6 point favorite. And I think
that would move it to being a favorite. Yeah, it's not a swing game then. Yeah.
I think that's fair for both teams. Pitt's going to take they're going to take at least till ACC play to really understand what they have this year. But you know at least what you're getting from WVU, even if they lose to Penn State. You kind of they bring a lot back. So I think it's fair to say 5-6 point favorite at most for West Virginia.
I also think there's a little bit of a blessing in disguise if you do lose to Penn State, figuring that's going to be a loss, because that would put – and West Virginia plays well in these scenarios when their backs are against the wall. They have a lot of pressure. They kind of got to get a win and out of conference play against a major program. They can't just have Albany and go 1-2. That would look bad, certainly, if they need an at-large bid. They almost want to make a statement because this does take a break in the series. It's in Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's obviously Pitt home field. No, I don't think there's going to be 75% of West Virginia fans there, but there will probably be 25%. I mean, there's going to be a significant amount of Mountaineers fans there. It was 2 years ago. It's not going to be like Pitt will take it over with it being a home crowd advantage. There's even W fans that live in Pittsburgh that don't have to travel. So it could go either way. It could go either way. Pitt fans probably never expected what happened last year. We know the history of this. Nothing would surprise me. I think the Mountaineers are favored, and they got to win it if they lose to Penn State. You really 1-2 going in conference play, even though you win your conference you're in. We're talking about vibes being so good in the offseason. Those vibes will be really, really freaking bad if that's a scenario, because then you would have a tough gauntlet streak. We've been talking about this a lot on this show, and I've been writing about it. Kansas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, and Kansas State coming up. We'll first go to Kansas at home. Ethan, this was a game the Mountaineers played after the brawl 2 years ago and surprisingly lost in Morgantown, one of the worst losses the program has felt in a while, and that sent them on a path of a really bad year. That was Daniel's coming out party. He's still there, and basically for Kansas, when they have him the last 2 years, they've been good. I mean, they're not great, but they've been good. They've been legit a team that people think can contend and win 8-9 games. When he's been hurt, they've been barely a bowl team. But assuming they have him and he's healthy and he is back, it's in Morgantown. Where are you there? And I for sure have that as a swing game. There's even a chance West Virginia is an underdog going into that game, even though it's at home, because Kansas, if they're undefeated, I could see 3 point swing or 2.5 even in favor of the Jayhawks. I'm going to say swing, but nothing would surprise me the outcome of that game.
Yeah, totally agree. I have swing game, but almost want to lean towards West Virginia being the underdog in that game.
Okay.
I really like Kansas as I wouldn't call them a dark horse Big 12 playoff team.
No, they're ranked in the AP.
Yeah, they're ranked, but everybody has Iowa, K-State, or not Iowa, Utah, K-State, Oklahoma State making the playoffs. But Kansas, I think their schedule is really weak. They only play one preseason ranked team all year.
Right. They're going to roll and dominate that game.
Yeah. If Jalen Daniels stays healthy the whole year, their offense has just been great the last couple of years, and they bring everybody back pretty much.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning almost want to say West Virginia should be an underdog that game.
We can pencil you in as an underdog there. I'm going to go swing, but that's also a game that Jordan Leslie got to stay on staff and has even been in rumors for head coaching positions, even though the defense was so bad in 2022. It obviously got better last year, and that helped him kind of show that he's worth staying on. Kansas was that team, Ethan, that was the first of everybody saying Leslie's scheme ain't going to work in this new situation, because they did whatever they wanted through the air, on the ground. They won in overtime, but there was no defensive effort from the Mountaineers, and that included Dante Stills, who's an NFL player, on the field. This is a deeper West Virginia defense. He keeps saying it. That'll be a big test. You can give them a mulligan against Penn State because they're a top 10 program. Even if you lose to Pitt, almost historically, that's never where the Panthers score a lot of points. If Pitt wins that game, it's probably like it was last year, where Pitt wins 17-14 or 16-13, or we know the score of the past. That'll be how Pitt would win. West Virginia's offense couldn't get going. Kansas can score. If Kansas beats West Virginia, it's probably 40-30, and they just hang points on the board because the Mountaineers cannot stop them. That'll be testing the secondary. That'll be testing the D-line that we think is a weakness. Sean Martin, 30 tackles we're talking about. He better get about 10 of them in that game, and maybe that won't even be good because he's going to be trying to chase Daniels. That's a real game to circle, to know how good they are.
Tell you what, no matter what the over-under is for that game, you're hitting the over.
You're likely hitting the over, unless the over's real high, but you're hitting the over probably.
They're definitely, both teams are definitely scoring over 30, maybe even 35 points each. So, it reminds me of the Oklahoma State game last year, a 48-34 kind of score.
Yeah, and it could even be one of those games where it's really close all the way, and then maybe one team pulls away in the fourth quarter, and the score doesn't show how close it is. But that's the game, Brown's going to start his weekly presser by saying, scheming this, we know we got to get 30 points or something like that. He usually gives you what he thinks the outcome will be. He thinks they got to get a certain number against Penn State. He might even think you got to hang 40 on Kansas, because they're going to be clicking. That with that schedule, this isn't week 1 or 2. You're facing them probably at a rough time, because they're going to be clicking, they're going to be riding high, and then that opens up conference play. Oklahoma State, you mentioned, that'll be the next one. That is on the road. For me, they're an underdog. They lost to them last year at home. That could have been a swing last year, but then the Cowboys end up with the win. And even if West Virginia has a real strong year, that's just an historically solid program that wins 9 or 10 a year. They're going to compete in this new Big 12 with Oklahoma and Texas gone from the conference. They're similar in all the vibes. And Gundy, say what you want about him, he is a great coach that usually gets the most out of his team. Ollie Gordon could be Big 12 Player of the Year if his legal troubles are behind him. So that would be a big win for West Virginia to do that on the road. Like, that would get them top 15, top 10 ranking spots. Certainly if they come in there 3-1 or something, but I don't see it. That's a loss for me, and probably them as an underdog.
That's 100% underdog, unless Oklahoma State, like they do sometimes, where they start out slow.
Yeah, they did last year. You're right.
That's the only way I see West Virginia even be getting close to the line.
Yeah.
But 100% Oklahoma State should be favored in this game.
7.5, something like that, probably at least.
I would almost
maybe more
towards 10.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it could be, and even if West Virginia's rolling, that's at home for Oklahoma State. I think the only other way West Virginia wins that game, because you remember Ollie Gordon won 49 in the fourth quarter last year. He has some legal troubles. They've not been fully decided. He should be playing this year. If they catch up to him, or he got to go to court the week of the game or something wild, maybe that helps West Virginia. Like, if you can time that, and the sports gods smile down. But if Ollie Gordon's staying out of trouble and he's playing full steam, they do usually have a slow start, but not in conference play. Like, they did it every year, but once conference play starts, that's where they roll. And that they're a program, Ethan, they could take advantage of the new rules where it doesn't matter what you do out of conference play. You win the Big 12, you're in. I could see them dropping an out of conference game and then roll in the Big 12. That's a Mike Gundy thing.
Yep.
And then Iowa State back at home. Oh, you have more in OSU? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a lot like Kansas basketball with Bill Self. They'll
100%. Yep.
They may not struggle as much as Oklahoma State football and non-con, but once they get in the Big 12 play, they figure it out. And that's why Gundy is one of the best coaches in the country.
Yeah, again, say what you want. A lot of people don't like him. Jaden Bray declined to comment, gave us a no comment. Obviously, him and Brown are different. I think it's safe to say, you look at the resume, with the national title or not, it's going to be hard to say Mike Gundy's not a Hall of Famer. I think that's going to have to happen, even though that speech is going to be quite lit. I would imagine with him saying everything he really feels at that point, and I can't wait, but he's going to have to get in. Iowa State, Rocco Beck, obviously coming back to Morgantown. His family obviously grew up there with his family and his father and Anthony Beck. I would imagine will be back there, Ethan. I imagine that's going to be a big deal with him going to the Hall of Fame. That could even get West Virginia out of sorts because they're going to be working about a whole week of celebrating Anthony Beck probably. People kind of forget about him. Was an NFL player. I saw on Twitter recently over the summer an opposing fan put out the all-time West Virginia team and literally had Wesco as the tight end. Anthony Beck was an NFL tight end. Anthony Beck is the greatest tight end in Mountaineer history currently before we see what Cole Taylor does in his career. And that is also the program, Ethan. Neil Brown said they feel slighted. They got 7 in the Big 12 media poll. Guess who was 6? Right there. Iowa State. They've not been really better in recent years. They're not better historically. They're a similar vibe culturally. That's the one program I know for sure they feel like they are getting slighted by being ranked behind. But they are supposed to be better this year. We're going to see what they really are and what Rocco Beck really is middle of the season. I think West Virginia could be favored, but to me, again, that's a swing game, even though they're home.
They should be favored. I don't understand the Iowa State hype. Like, I totally understand why Neil Brown and the team feel slighted that Iowa State's ranked ahead of them in the preseason poll. Great program, especially under Matt Campbell for what their program was before Campbell.
In comparison, sure. Brock Purdy, we can go, obviously he came out of there,
Yeah, so, but the last couple of years, you kind of know what you're getting out of Iowa State. They're not hitting the top 10 like they did 4 years ago, but they're also not bottom of the Big 12 like they used to be. So I understand. I think we all know what we're getting out of Iowa State this year. West Virginia should be favored. It should be like the last time Iowa State came to Morgantown, kind of a 1-score game, and then West Virginia pulls away late.
Yeah, and on the road, it was a really boring, horrible game to watch, if you recall, as well, in recent memory. And it might be a little different now because Rocco Beck has that NFL pedigree. His dad obviously was a tight end. Helps him coaching-wise. His dad is a coach in the UFL. He has more of that prototypical QB in him than what we've seen from Iowa State outside of Purdy. So maybe they can do a little bit more and open it up offensively. But that's another one that I do think West Virginia's offense, Ethan, might be too much for Iowa State to handle. The Mountaineers turned it over a lot in the matchup on the road. If they can take care of the football like Green normally does, him running around might be enough in that game to score points. And then Iowa State, they're trying to win games with 17 points, unless, again, Rocco Beck opens it up more than recent memory. West Virginia probably scoring 30 a game here, late 20s a game. I would imagine, even if they don't have a good year, the offense should click with how experienced it is. So I could see them winning, but I'm going to still go swing. You have the Mountaineers as a favorite. I agree Iowa State's a little overrated, but that wouldn't shock me. So I have the Mountaineers here. We both have underdog to Penn State. We both have favorite Albany. We both have favorite to Pitt. Nothing would surprise me there as well, obviously. Did you have a swing on Kansas? I have a swing on Kansas.
I had underdog against Kansas.
Okay, you went underdog. I have a swing. Oklahoma State, we both have underdog. I'm swing Iowa State, and you have West Virginia being the favorite there. Similar situation, but even a better program. Kansas State also at home. So these are tough games, but these key ones are at home. Kansas State is that program, Ethan. Everyone freaking forgets. When TCU got in the playoff out of the Big 12 and it was a big deal, guess who won the damn conference? It wasn't TCU. It was Kansas State. That happens again. Kansas State goes to the playoff, obviously. And they've been a really, really good program. People that don't pick Utah oftentimes pick Kansas State to come out of the Big 12 this year. I also think that's a swing game, even though it is in Morgantown. I could even see them being an underdog, but I will go swing because it's in Morgantown. If it was on the road, I would 100% favor Kansas State. And that's another statement game the Mountaineers could make, but that is a good Kansas State program.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with swing. But I'm gonna have to go towards underdog. I just think K-State's they should take that next step this year of really competing, especially now for a first round bye in the playoff. I think they can take that next step. So totally understand where you're coming from with West Virginia, with in Morgantown swing game. I really want to do it. It's tempting. It's homecoming weekend too, that game.
That's the thing.
But I'm gonna lean underdog.
Yeah, homecoming weekend and all of that. They usually get up for those games. I'm gonna go swing there, but I would not be shocked if West Virginia lost that game. That's another game that losing it would kind of hurt some vibes. Although you got to get out of this Big 12 gauntlet probably with 3 wins, get it 3 out of 2, 3 out of 2 here, lose to Penn State, and then run the table is what your goal got to be. This next one, though, I'm just going to give it to you now. I 100%, and this may seem contradictory to what I'm about to say, I 100% believe Arizona a little overrated. I do. Their last great elite year was when Rich Rod was freaking the coach of Arizona. A lot of hype. They're a top 25 AP, coaches poll, all of that. It makes sense for them to be in the Big 12 for basketball and football. They bring a media market. There's talent there. They're West Coast. It expands the country. I get it. I'm not mad at them being in the conference. I just don't think football-wise they're nearly as elite as people think they are if they ever get back to their basketball. Ethan, West Virginia has 40 bowl appearances in program history. Arizona has 22. I mean, they have 10 bowl wins in program history. They perennially underachieve. However, that's underdog. I think West Virginia is going to be a significant underdog going in that game, even if they're having a good year. It is on the road. It is the furthest trip the program's really ever made. Arizona, even if they're not a great team, that's like a Houston game of last year. I think Arizona might be a 7-8 win team instead of 9 or 10, but that's a win. I cannot see West Virginia going over there and getting that win, no matter what happened prior. It's such a long trip. That's just a gut feeling screaming to me like they're going to have one of their worst performances of the year on the road in Tucson.
It screams trap game, like you said, longest trip of the year. I'm a little bit more higher on Arizona than you are. I won't say overrated, but I would use a similar word if that makes sense. I can see them having 7-8 wins as well, as opposed to people thinking 9 or 10. But I won't call them overrated. I still think they're going to be a hard team to beat. They're going to be competitive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got West Virginia as the underdog in this one.
All right. Well, moving on. Yeah, I'm not feeling Arizona this year. Everybody else is though. Cincinnati. You're from there. You know this situation at Nippert Stadium. West Virginia is the favorite here. Cincinnati's going to probably have another rough year in the Big 12. Moving on from Group of 5 play. They deserved the playoff when they were there. They had a Notre Dame win. They had the resume, unlike UCF, but ever since they got in with the big boys, it's been rough for them. I think the program will be good in the future. They can be good, and it could be a rivalry, but their whole D-line basically is hurt. It's on the road, but West Virginia got to be the favorite in that game.
Yeah, 100%. It's not necessarily UC moving to the Big 12. It's more so Luke Fickell leaving and Scott Satterfield coming in.
Sure.
The momentum just got killed there. It would be awesome if Cincinnati football could get back to what they were 3 years ago, because then you could actually build and at least create a narrative that West Virginia and UC have a rivalry from the Big East days.
And they didn't really have one back then outside of Huggins in basketball. Pitt and Cincinnati were rivals in football, but not WVU and Cincinnati. They never put it together.
If UC can go back and forth with WVU,
right,
you can at least make the argument now.
Yeah, East Coast.
But it's gonna take a couple years for UC to get back to that point.
Yeah, and every time on any of their shows, it's always, hey, can we make this a rivalry? And it's like, you need to be at least competitive, guys. Like, no, it's one thing at West Virginia you think they're overrated, but Cincinnati is struggling to even get bowl eligibility here. They weren't even a bowl team last year. They got to at least be a 6-win bowl team for that to be a rival. West Virginia is certainly above that level, even for people that think the Mountaineers are overrated. Moving on to Baylor. This is in Morgantown. You talk about a game where we're throwing points out. Usually, historically, even though this is a Baylor team that has a transfer QB and we don't know how they're going to be yet from the Group of 5 level too, there's always points here. And the Mountaineers almost lost this game last year. If you remember, this is the game at the end of the year that Zach Frazier got hurt and Green had to lead him on a comeback drive that Frazier kept the clock stopped and didn't have that 10-second runoff at the end, even though Baylor was not good. They are a major question mark this year. I just don't know what they're going to be with a Group of 5 QB moving up to that level. He had 5 years at Toledo, and now he's at Baylor. It's hard to say. I'm going to say West Virginia is – I almost want to go swing, but I'm going to say – I want to go swing, but I'm going to say the Mountaineers are the favorite because they're at home. If that was on the road again, I probably would go swing.
Yeah, I agree. If it was in Waco, I'd go swing, but Morgantown, I'm going favorite. There's again, I really doubt Baylor's going to take a big jump and all of a sudden they're back to what they were under Dave Aranda early on. I think they're going to just continue to be a mediocre team, and I think we know what we're getting out of Baylor. So yeah, I'm going favorite for West Virginia.
And then UCF is next up. They are a program that, like Cincinnati, they had Group of Five success. They've been struggling since joining the Big 12. West Virginia did go to Orlando and win last year on their homecoming day, and many thought that was an upset. Granted, West Virginia had a much better year last year. They kind of surprised people in that game. I know the press box thought UCF was going to roll the Mountaineers. That did not happen. West Virginia won that game handily, and Green had one of his better games. I'm, though, going to say that's a swing game. Everyone's going to come at me because the Mountaineers probably will be favored on a Vegas betting line, especially if the year is going well and they have a big win or two to this point. That could be a game the Mountaineers are our favorite. They probably should win. They should be a better team. I don't buy into the UCF hype that they're going to be this Big 12 champ that no one's expecting. However, it's hard to beat a team back-to-back years. They are better than last year. And I just don't buy West Virginia winning 4 straight, Ethan. So I think one of these games they're going to probably get nipped in and they don't expect it. You're starting to now feel like a vibe of if you have 7 wins, you got to keep it rolling to get to 9 or 10. You're vying for maybe going to Dallas. All that could get in their head. We don't know. I'm going to just put it down a swing because I wouldn't be surprised if UCF wins it after the same thing happened to them a year ago. But I could see the Mountaineers being the favorite, and they probably will be Vegas-wise.
Yeah, I have swing as well. UCF's
okay. I thought you'd go West Virginia favorite. Okay.
No, I like UCF. I like UCF this year, especially with KJ Jefferson coming in.
Okay.
And they also have a couple of Big 12 transfers from Cincinnati as well. So
yeah,
they're at least they just had a weird season last year. Like they just had weird games, and I like them more than last year. So it's just like you said, this could totally be a trap game. West Virginia struggled in Lubbock going into the following week, at least the last few years. So I feel like the team's going to overlook UCF in between Baylor and Texas Tech. So yeah, I'm going swing.
Yeah, and then that mentioned going to Lubbock. Nice segue. I am going to also give you a surprising swing game at Lubbock against Texas Tech. And unlike UCF, that I think will be probably a 7-8 win team and could be good and should be better than last year, nobody's expecting much from Texas Tech. They're usually perennially a 7-win team. They're competitive, but not great. I don't think they're going to vie for the conference or be that great, but that screams similar to what Baylor was on the road last year before the bowl, especially if you're having it before a Big 12 title game or before the playoff or even before a solid bowl game. I could see that being a quote-unquote trap game. No one likes going to Lubbock. There's dust everywhere. No one wants to go there. If you have 9 wins and one more gets you 10, I could see, yeah, there's a lot to play for, but I also could see it's hard to be a game that you get up for. I could see that being an upset at the end of the year. If it was in Morgantown, I would say win all day. But on the road at Lubbock, these are the last 2 games. I do think Vegas will probably favor the Mountaineers by at least 4.5 against UCF at home and even Texas Tech on the road, maybe even 7.5 plus against the Red Raiders. But I'm saying swing because I would not be surprised if they drop that game at the end of the year. And potentially, then I wouldn't even be shocked if they do a West Virginia thing and they lose that game and that kicks them out of going to Dallas. That just screams a bad matchup at the end of the season to close out a year going to Lubbock. That is like the worst road trip to have.
Yeah, I got swing as well. I don't. Texas Tech seems to always be the dark horse team in the conference, and then they never live up to it.
Yeah.
But once again, they're the dark horse team. But I just can't. West Virginia has struggled in Lubbock the last couple times they've went there. So, and especially the last game of the year, like you said, if they're contending for Dallas, like last season they were a couple weeks away from still contending. So if they're still contending by November 30th and they're going to Lubbock, that's another time where that's a trap game. And yeah, I don't think Texas Tech's going to be the dark horse 9-win Big 12 team this year, but it's not an ideal way to end the regular season.
No, you almost wish you could flip-flop the UCF Texas Tech thing and at least have that second to last and then end the year at home against UCF etc. But no, going to Lubbock before all of that. Honestly, even if you have that road trip and you're really vying for Dallas, I consider keeping them there. I consider as a university, they go to Lubbock and then just stay. Imagine going to Lubbock, you go back home, and then 2 days later you got to go back again. Maybe logistically you just stay, or you go from Lubbock, of course, to Dallas. You stay in Texas. Obviously, they're not going to do that, but that'll be in front of the Mountaineers. A lot could be on their mind. Wouldn't be shocked. Obviously, they blow it at the end. And Texas Tech is just always a pesky freaking opponent. Yeah, nobody wants to go to Lubbock at any time, let alone to close a freaking year off. So that'll do it for our little game here to kind of preview the Mountaineers season off their schedule, whether they're going to be the favorite, the underdog, or whether it's a swing game. We both got some swing games. I have more swing games than Ethan. They won a lot of swing games last year, but they also lost some. And then we differ on I believe Arizona. I have them as an underdog, right? You had that as a swing game, I think.
Arizona I had underdog as well.
Oh, okay. I know Iowa State, Kansas State. Those were a couple games that we differed on.
Kansas. You were different on Iowa State. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll leave you with this. Maybe it'll be a future show. Maybe I'll make it a post. Maybe I'll just throw it on social. I brought it up on another show the other day. That would you rather is another would you rather. Would you rather win the Big 12 16th conference title, which is top 20 in college football history, get all that celebrated, have a trophy, get a ring, you get that, and you get a bye in the playoff, and then you lose right away. So you lose a Sugar Bowl or whatever after a bye, so you lose at the same spot, but you win the Big 12, or you get in as an 8 seed and you host a playoff game in Morgantown. It would be freaking lit. McAfee would do a show there again. Maybe you win it, but then you lose the next week, so you're losing at the same spot. Or even if you lose it, but you get that full atmosphere and you get ticket sales, etc. I know the program wants the conference title number 1. That's what I've asked them. That's what their answer is. They want the conference title. That is the goal. They want that trophy. They would celebrate the full history if they get it. That's what they want. I have had some say they'd rather have the home playoff game for what that could mean. It kind of would be, you're from Cincinnati, I'm from Pittsburgh. That could be a 2013 wild card game vibe, Pirates against the Reds, where the crowd had caused Cueto to drop the ball, and that's an image forever, even though they didn't go to the NLCS. But again, conference title is a title, even if you don't win the national title. That is a debate. I could see that going either way. I'll leave that there. I'll put a pin in that, and I'll leave that there.
That's just a tough one. That's a tough one to end it on.
It's a tough one to end it on, because that is the thing, and that's the thing that's gonna. It's almost the way this works. Is a dichotomy here. It kind of sucks that you want the bye, like you want to bye in the NFL playoffs. You want to win your conference. You don't want to lose games. You'd rather win them, but doing so boots you out of hosting. Whereas if you have a chance now, in all reality, if they get it as an at-large, they're probably going to be a road team and get 11 or a 12 seed, so it won't be a thing. But if they could host one in Morgantown, can you imagine that atmosphere? That would be off the hook.
I actually can't imagine it.
No, I can. Yeah, you're probably considering like, how can I ever? My house would burn down. Where would I be living? How can I get home? That would be a concern. Yes, but that would be, because even all the success of the program in the past, hosting a playoff game, hosting one. That's a different vibe than traveling thousands of miles for a major bowl game. That is a different vibe. That's different than going to a Final Four. That's hosting the damn thing. I mean, imagine that. I'll put a pin in that and keep that there. Again, like and subscribe. Hit us up, audio or visual, here from Mountaineer Report, and find our coverage at WV Sports Now.